Uh, Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank everyone to joining here today. Now it is time to start JIA's International Presence Forum. I'm Daiji Chikuba, Chair of the International Relations Committee of JIA. The theme of this forum is heritage and cultural identity. And today, we have two sessions. The part one is short presentations by our 5 guest presenters. And the part two is a panel discussion with invited presidents or representative of JIA's affiliated institutes. Today, we are broadcasting this event through YouTube Live with simultaneous Japanese interpretation for our friends in Japan, as well as English for our overseas friends. Okay, now let's begin the part one with our first presenter, architect Dr. Sayeed Ahmed, who acts as a Dean of the School of Environmental Science and Design in University of Asia Pacific. He's an educator and a specialist of conservation works. As many of you would know, he also acts as the president of ARCASIA, and we are so delighted to have him today. Now, Dr. Ahmed, please come to the stage.
Thank you, Chikuba, for the for presenting me, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Before starting my presentation, I have to say a few words, or I have to explain the premises where I am working and what I am working actually, for whom I am working. You know, I come from Bangladesh. Bangladesh, is it okay to hear? Okay. Bangladesh is a land, largest delta in the world. We can see from the picture, these images was made out of the lines from the rivers and the canals. We have in total around 700 rivers and canals flowing from Himalaya, coming from India, coming from China, and end up in Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh. It means we have a lot of water. Bangladesh is the largest water basin in the world. We receive the largest amount of water in the world, I should say. But Bangladesh is a very small country. This water creates a lot of problems that everyone should know. Flood, erosion, create climate refuges. But I should say, this is fortune. Water is a fortune for us. What kind of fortune it is? From this slide, we can see we can use river as a mode of transportation. We can have our fish from the river, the protein from the river. Even this water from the river will help us to produce agricultural product. Before the Industrial Revolution, we know agricultural product is the only product that can be used as a trading material. What is the trading material? In ancient period, I'm talking about the ancient period, in Bangladesh, we have huge number of spices. This spices is not for cooking purpose. The spice is used for the preservative. Even in the to preserve the momi, they need spices. And for medicine purpose, of course. So this is the one of the important material for export and very expensive material from the left side. And the right side is the cooking spices that we know everyone. But the left one is the original spices. And the second one is the textile. Why Egypt was so popular? Egyptian textile is one of the best in the world. And there is a route, silk route, that transferred the textile. And Bangladesh, we had produced the finest textile in the world. This is muslin. Very fine. We can see from the picture. This is a picture of 18th century picture. A wife of a Bengali Jamindar. The wife is not a Bengali. She's a Persian. We can see from the face, even the hair, the black hair, very tall, slim figure. This is not the Bengali figure. She wear the sharis. This is made of muslin. This is 18th century fabric. It means we have spices and muslin, the two things. This is the two important thing that was transferred from one country to another country. And this is the two business route I would like to show. This is not made by me. This is from the map. The top one, the yellow one, we know everyone. This is the Silk Road. Silk Road started from the Central Asia, end up in China, in Jiang City in the China. In the Silk Route, and there is another route. This is the water route. Some people called it water Silk Route, but the original name is Silk Route. Spice route. It means there was a two trade route. One is Silk Route, one is Spice route. Spice route was covered through water and Silk Route through land. And my interpretation, but not my interpretation, when we see there's a 5 known civilization. One is Egyptian civilization, the left side. All the ancient civilization was founded in the connecting point of the two business route. On the connecting point of the two business route. In the left side, we can see the Egyptian civilization located on the river Nile. In the connection, Nile is connected, Silk Route and the Spice Route. And then Mesopotamia, Euphrates and Tigris River. This is connecting the two trade route. And the third one in Pakistan, Indus Valley civilization. This is connecting between the trade route and spice route. And the last one is the Yolo River, Wangho civilization. This fourth civilization, we know the same time frame, 2000 BCE. And the missing link is the fourth one, where we are working, Bangladesh. This is the Ganga Riddhi civilization. It is mentioned in different historical books. But unfortunately, we couldn't find it because in Bangladesh, this river is shifting. The river shifted always, and we are losing our heritage. And secondly, hopefully, due to the archaeological exploration, we'll get it soon. Then we can establish our civilization from the 2000 BCE. And because we have a strong economical background, so the economy is the main force to pull the people to come there for the immigration. This is the country, very tiny country, small country, I should say, only 144,000 square kilometer, and 170 million people living in this city. This is the densely populated area in the world. Why it is densely? Because the economic development. It was the place of migration. It is the place for fortune for many people. For that reason, many people migrated here and settled down there. Because a lot of people know, I can compare one example, probably some people know, Ishtiaq Johir is now vice president. When you compare with Ishtiaq and me, he is very small and white, and I'm a little bit long and little bit dark. It means two kind of population was settled in one country. It is that's why I'd like to explain that Bangladesh, we have migrated a lot of people in ancient period because there is an economic boom. And this is the result of this economic boom. When the civilization was there, a lot of architecture was there. And the topmost corner, the Largest Buddhist monastery in Southeast Asia. This is Paharpur Monastery. All are Buddhist monasteries. And then early Islamic monasteries, before Mughal, 12th century to 15th century. These are early Islamic mosques, before Mughal. And these are the Mughals. These are also temples, because we have also a lot of Hindu religions peoples. And the last one is the colonial development. Colony, we know, the British, Bangladesh was a colony from British. And so we have dotted of buildings all over the country. In each and every village has small colonial building. And what is our duty as a conservation architect or architectural historian, I should say? I have the two banner, two feathers, so I did my PhD in architectural history, so I have always eager to search the historical elements. And when I do some conservation, I have a special vision. And this is my vision. Number one vision is to unfold the architectural spaces through conservation. Number two, unfold the attributes or the elements of architectural elements. Number three, unfold the phases of construction. Each and every building has some phases. Number four, the traditional construction techniques. That is my vision, all of my vision. And the last one is unfold the traditional building material. And when you start all the unfolding, then what rest? The revival of the craftsman and the craftsmanship. This is the most important. The last one is the byproduct of all those four things. Fourth thing is the architectural vision, and the last one is the byproduct of that. This is also important. We have to think about the livelihood of the craftsman, because the craftsmanship is already, we are losing our craftsmanship, the old traditional craftsman. Tradition is the most important. In this aspect, I would like to refer to Japanese architecture. In Japan, we have the most number of Pritzker Award winner. Why? My interpretation or your interpretation also the same, because they have followed the traditional philosophy of simplicity, purity, and honesty of material. And this philosophy is embedded in the modern architecture. For that reason, Japan is number one in architecture, modern architecture. They don't imitate any tradition, just embedded the philosophy of the tradition. This is the important thing that Japan has. And we are searching for this philosophy of architecture, or building industry, or building science through conservation. That should be out, not only to preserve this building for social history, for economy. There's a lot of reason, but our main vision should be for our profession, for our next generation to preserve this. Then I'll show some examples from Bangladesh. Recently, I'm doing one conservation. This is an ongoing project. In the old city, middle of the old city, there is a Mughal fort. It's an incomplete fort. Only one building was complete, one or two buildings. In the front, this one was completed, and during the construction, the wife of the king was expired. So for that reason, he left this place and made her mausoleum in the center. This is like an urban oasis. It's a green. Each and every building has an use. Originally, it was a pavilion, and behind there is a hammam. Hammam is a bathroom, or hammam. You know, most of the people, what is hammam is. The frontal part is a pavilion, and the back part is a hammam. But this building was redesigned or renovated by the British. And this images was taken in 1950. From the glass side, we have printed out. During the British period, they used this building as an army office or soldier barrack. Then what they did, we can see triangular pediment. It was not Mughal, it was totally British in the top. Triangular pediment. Even all the doors and windows is colonial. They sealed up all the walls, all the doors and for their functional purpose. Then, after the birth of Pakistan, Pakistani Archaeology Department in 1955, they have restored this building as it was like a Mughal pavilion, and converted it into a museum. So, my goal is to unfold the spaces and elements. Whenever I start any source of conservation work in our country, my first job is to deplaster or remove all the plaster, because all the plaster last 50 years was done by cement, which is very detrimental for a lime masonry building. Cement. So my first job is to remove all the cement, because lime masonry need to breathe, need to absorb moisture. If you put a cement on that, they cannot breathe. They lost their structural stability. So I have to remove all the cement plaster. This is my first job. So here we can see the first task, we have to remove all the cement plaster and the screen, the cement screen. We can see in the top, there is no screen, but here there was a screen in the bottom. Bottom was the original, we have to remove. And I told this building was used as a museum, so they closed all the screens, and as a display, they used Persian carpet, which has no connection with this building. Then my job is to remove all the screen. Now we can see this is turned into the original pavilion. Mughal Haveli or pavilion is always open, there is no door. And there's the same, it was originally as museum, but after removing all the screens, cement screen, we can see the Mughal element, attributes, double pillar, cusping arch, everything we can see easily. And all the hammam, the lighting of the hammam should not be from the side. Hammam is a washing room. So when someone taking their washroom, there should not be any opening. Light comes from the top. But for the functional use, they introduced lot of opening, side opening. From the side, we can see there is a huge opening. This is a new intervention, and closed up all the original well. So my job should be, we have to close all the openings and again open up the light from the roofs. And we have sealed the previous opening from the left side and open up the light well from the top. And this is a central room. And the light comes from the left side, we can see. And there is a chandelier, recent chandelier. And the top, there is a, no pointer, okay, no problem. In the top, there is a original light well, then we have to remove it. The same quality as light, but different ambience. Now we can say this is a hammam. It means we have unfold the original function, original space, original light quality. There is a stair inside the building. In this plan, we can see in the corner, originally there was a stair, but instead of use that stair, they make a new, during the reconstruction in Pakistani period, 1958, they introduced a new stair, and this is the new concrete stair. So we have to remove it. After deplaster, we can see there is this wall opening was sealed with cement and bricks. Then naturally we have to remove and find the original stairs. These are the original stairs. We have to restore all those original stairs. This is the process. We have to show the construction system of the stair. Even the steps we have to cover by wood to prevent deterioration of the bricks by wear and tearing. And there's another example how we will document all the phases of construction. This is another example for another building. It was in ruin. In 1975, it was restored by our archaeology department in such a way. And this picture was taken in 2012 when I started reconstruction of this restoration of this building. My first job, our first job is to go thorough research of the incremental growth of that building. Each and every building or even human being has some growth, addition, alteration. Then we have to identify all the new elements and the phases. There's the 4 phases we have identified. This is the most interesting thing. The first one is very old, before 1575. In the bottom one, second one was built during the Mughal period, 1600 to 1700. Then there was after shifting of the Mughal from the Bangladesh from Dhaka to Kolkata, the capital of Mughal from Dhaka to Kolkata, this place was left abandoned. And this abandoned place, it was around 200 years it was abandoned, nobody has used. At the beginning of 20th century, 1905, one Hindu Jamindar bought this complex and he cleverly built his own residence using all buildings. The white one, this one, is his new residential building, and he has introduced a corridor which connects all the four buildings, old buildings, and introduce a new gatehouse in front of it. And the last one, due to the use as a museum, they have to introduce a lot of new rooms, like storerooms on the top, the white one, all the white ones is the later edition. So our job was to remove just recent addition, and we have to preserve pre-Mughal element, and the colonial element. These phases we want to show the public and show the architects and the students. And after restoration, from these images, we can see different type of material, different type of arches, different type of openings. From the first one is a one material, the second one is red, then it's a white and red, then again red color. Red color is no color, it's the expression of brick and powder dust, powder, brick and lime. And our job is to show the public, showcase all the phases. This is the earliest phases, where no reinforcement, only with brick arches, flat brick arches. Luye Khan has influenced for this kind of flat arches. All the bricks we have to expose for our students or the next generation how the construction system was. We are focusing always the construction system to show the people, to showcasing the systems. And the second one, in some cases we have plastered it and exposed bricks also. And this part is Mughal part. And this is colonial, everybody know, with capital on everything, base and capital, some order, columns, this is colonial. So, this corridor is colonial. We can see all the stained glasses, colorful stained glass, late colonial and Victorian. And what we propose in the conservation plan, we have to show the phases. And of this image, we can see in the right side, this is a Mughal element, and the left side is a colonial element. This is around 250 years different. In one building, time difference is 250 years. In the back side lighting, we can see the Mughal, and the front side is colonial. It's a blending of three phases of architecture. And at the beginning, I talked about the lime masonry construction. What is lime masonry? That in Bangladesh, we have clay. We need to burn clay. We have a lot of rivers. We can collect shell from the rivers. From the shell, we can find shell lime, not from the mountain. We have shell from the river, and from the river bank, we can collect clay. Clay can be burned. So we have two building material, very cheap, brick and lime. Lime not from the limestone, lime from the shell lime. This is one example of the problem we have. All ancient mosque building is very tiny and small, but the number of worshippers is increased day by day. So need bigger space. Then what shall they do? They have to demolish the old one and construct a new one. But we want to try to preserve the old and construct a new building in front of that, or in backside, or if there is a person. And there is a dialogue between the old and new. The frontal part is the new one, and the back part is the old one, which was restored. And fortunately, this one was awarded UNESCO award, got a UNESCO award, South Asian. And this is a blending of the old and new. And the left side before restoration, and right side after restoration. And in this building, we have used only the traditional material, lime plaster, lime mortar only. This is the inside. This mosque is now converted into this Quran learning center for the children, and the main mosque is transferred to the main building. From this video, you can see the process of lime masonry. Due to the scarcity of shell lime, now we are using slaked lime. And as a bonding material, we have to use traditional betel-nut juice or molasses for better bonding. And this is the finishing material. We have to use very fine lime and fine bricks. Again, we have to use some traditional bonding material. We can see the finished surface. And the fourth one is typical roof construction system. In Bengali, we can say it, Kori Borga, by wooden purlin and wooden bray, wooden beam and purlin. And this is another new example of, it can be a model for Bangladesh because whole Bangladesh is dotted with small residential building. Each and every village has such kind of residential building. All are under ruin actually. So we can see how was the condition of that building. Even the trees, they are spoiling whole masonry wall. Even the roofs had been collapsed. Then we have started only cleaning. After cleaning all the facades, we have to repair the bonding, the cracks. In the left side, we can see the cracks. In the right side, it is called by brick stitching. No new material, just stitching of the bricks with the bricks and lime mortar. Then we have to place again the wooden beam and purlin. And upon the purlin, we have to place small brick tiles in 2 layers of small brick tiles. Here we can see the section of the construction, roof construction. In the bottom is the I-beam, and then another mix and the tiles and lime masonry in the top. And the lime masonry again, they have to fit it for gaining structural strength. And it was the condition before restoration, and you can see after restoration. From here, we can see clearly the roof and the walls and the new windows. Now this building is converted into a guest house with old furnitures of that family. In the night view. And then another example. Most of the engineers, when they saw the roof is collapsed, their suggestion is always to remove everything, to construct with new construction system. This is RCC. There's one example, same building that I have shown at the beginning, the phases of construction. The archaeology department, our government archaeology department, they restored the roof with RCC construction. But luckily, they retained the I-beams. In the first view, this roof is RCC roof, but they retained the I-beam. Then what we did, because our goal is to show the construction system. Then we have to lower down the I-beam and insert again the purlin so that it can looks like original construction system, although the roof is made of RCC. But people can understand probably this was the construction system. We are focusing about the construction. The left was the before and the right was the after restoration. And the last one, in Bengal, not in Bengal, I should say, in Dhaka city, a special type of ornamentation was developed. In Persia or Iran, they have ceramic tiles, blue color glazed tiles. In Bengal, we didn't have that kind of tiles. So the people, they want to make a new surface ornamentation. Then what they did, they collected the porcelain or houseware, plates or bowls from either Holland or from China, and they broke it down and clad it on the surface and make a mosaic or ornamented pattern. And these are the examples, special type of ornamentation pattern out of broken plates, broken bowls. And these are the pieces I have collected from one building, different types of plates. Then what we did, we don't have this material nowadays, or this pattern nowadays. Material we have ceramic porcelain plates, but this kind of pattern we don't have. So our first job has to restore the original plate, how it was. We have collected some pieces, small pieces, then through Photoshop, nowadays the young architects can do it. They have revived the original plate. Then what we did, with this design, we requested a lot of ceramic industry, they produced for us again plates, and then we broke it down and used in this building again, so that it looks similar, at least. This is after restoration, using that plates. And originally, these were the pieces. This building we have restored. It's a before restoration, and this is after restoration, with all the ceramic plates. This is after restoration. And this is my last slide, because we have to honor our craftsmen. We have to revive. Only 3-4 family in all city know how to make this pattern. So we have to revive that craftsman. We have to revive that craftsmanship. So we have to look into their livelihood even. Otherwise, this group will spoil. In Dhaka, we have only 3-4 family they can do. So for that reason, my last slide is dedicated to them. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Your presentation was very thought-provoking and inspiring for architects who are mainly doing new constructions. Okay, then our next presenter is architect Farhana SHARMIN Imu. She is a Bangladeshi architect and also acting as the chairperson of ARCASIA Heritage Preservation Group. Architect Imu, please come to the stage.
very good day to all of you, all the distinguished presidents, honorable presenters, discussions, and all my beloved audience. I would like to express my gratitude first to the Japan Institute of Architects for inviting me to their International Presidents Forum today as the chairperson of ARCASIA Heritage Preservation Group, which we call AHPG in short. AHPG is a group under ACSR, ARCASIA Committee on Social Responsibility, which is one of the 5 working committees of Architects Regional Council Asia. We started our journey from October 2021 and working now under the guidance from ARCASIA President, Professor Abu Said M. Ahmed, who is also a renowned conservation specialist, and you have just heard his presentation. We have 2 heritage experts or specialists from each institute, which makes 44 experts working at a time, though few of the member institutes are yet to send their representatives' names. So I will start with the intention of the formation of this group, AHPG. The intention as a whole was to preserve and promote Asian identity. And we all know that the identity of a place expresses itself through its heritage and culture. When we talk about heritage, we talk about natural and cultural heritage. AHPG obviously considered cultural heritage, which again has tangible and intangible parts. Tangible part has architectural, archaeological, and movable heritage in it. After several online discussions, AHPG decided on starting with both the tangible and intangible parts of it. But the question comes, what can a forum like ARCASIA do with the heritage and culture of its 22 member institutes? Archiving, documenting, and later on, promoting its heritage resources. My presentation today has 2 parts. First part is to give you an update about what we had in mind and have done so far from AHPG. I'm sure many of you from JIA who are working from ARCASIA know about this part. In the second part, I will take the opportunity to share few of my related findings from Bangladeshi context, and some of it might related to Japanese as well as global context. So after first round of discussions among the heritage experts from AHPG, we decided on few action plans to archive both tangible and intangible heritage of all member institutes of ARCASIA. There were so many action plans, so many proposals, like adaptive reuse of urban architectural heritage, like formulate our own Asian guidelines for conservation, documentation of indigenous heritage, identify transboundary nomination for World Heritage listing, promoting heritage tourism in ARCASIA countries, knowledge sharing of modern architecture heritage, and so on. In these slides, a few examples from Zone A, B, and C of ARCASIA are shown for convenience. And in our first round of discussion, there were a few action plans for intangible heritage parts as well, like document and promote traditional festivals of all 22 member institutes, document and promote traditional musical instruments, traditional crafts, performing arts, oral traditions, social practices and rituals, and even the traditional food preparation, and so on. After the third round of discussions among the AHPG specialists, we decided to arrange knowledge-sharing webinars by all 22 member institutes on 3 topics under tangible heritage. Topic A, sharing knowledge on conservation techniques and guidelines in practice. Topic A, presenting appropriate examples of adaptive reuse through conservation. Topic B, sharing knowledge on conservation techniques and guidelines in practice. And topic C was sharing experiences on preservation of historic urban landscape of each institute. Our plan is to arrange 3 knowledge-sharing webinars on each topic, and after every 3, we will go for an electronic publication and then for physical publication. Thus, the documentation on tangible part ends with a compilation of a book. Then we started the knowledge-sharing webinars. Ladies and gentlemen, here you can see the posters of the 2 webinars on topic A, which were live streamed from ARCASIA Facebook page in the month of August. First webinar had presentation from 6 member institutes, from 7 heritage specialists, and the second one had 4 institutes from 6 honorable specialist presenters. So now we are in the process of the third webinar on the same topic, and hopefully we'll know about the examples of adaptive reuse from JIA specialists in our coming session. I, on behalf of all members of AHPG, would like to welcome you all, heritage expert or not, to enjoy and enrich yourselves from the knowledge-sharing heritage-related presentations from Asian regions through the AHPG members. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will go to the second part of my presentation. I will share a few of my kind of unexpected but related findings while doing this heritage tour. My finding number 1, most of the heritage specialists with formal master's and PhD degree work mostly with the tangible parts of heritage, even though the academic course material contains both tangible and intangible parts. This is the situation from Bangladesh. I would like to know the situation from the other places as well. My finding number 2 is most of the people who are working with intangible heritage from Bangladesh are without any formal academic education in heritage, working solely out of passion. And my finding number 3 is most of the architects who are heritage specialists and are also working for AHPG are more interested to work with tangible or physical part of the heritage and less interested into the ones which doesn't have any physical existence, the intangible parts. I think we might shift this perspective. I will try to explain why with examples from folk music from Bangladesh. For the last few years, a new trend in urban Bengali rock bands is to remix and present the rich folk songs in their ways with the honest intention to archiving without losing the originals. Here is a small part of the folk version of Gombhira, an unique type of folk song from northern part of Bangladesh. Now you can see the urban version, which apparently resembles the original.
Hey, Nana, du choke ja dekhi hami Bangladesh kishok chhara kisi unnayon ar hobe na. Hey, Nana, kisi har ke jibon dharon kisi chhara bachbo na. Hey, Nana, kisi har ke jibon dharon kisi chhara bachbo na. Hey!
I will give you another example. In case of Bhavaiya, the cartman's song, folk song from North Bengal. The breakups in tune is formed from the wheels of the bullock carts on dusty, rugged, muddy village roads. I will try to sing a little bit. Okay, Garial Bhai, Kahato Rahbo Ahami, Pahanther Dike, Chayare. While archiving or preserving Bhavaiya, we need to preserve the root cause of this breakup in the tune as well. Kahato rahbo ahami, you know what I mean. And the overall tune expresses the longing of a woman for her partner who is not with her and long gone for work. These need to be properly analyzed, put under research, and then recorded. Here is another video where you can see the inherited process of rural traditional pita or cake making. You can see the different layers of pita making here. So the pita is done here, and now it's the urban interpretation by arranging pita utshab, pita fair, with rows of stalls and hundreds of decorative pitas served in plastic containers. My fear is whether this method of preserving our intangible heritage without specialists' help is proper or not. Looking forward to learn more about what is happening in Japan from this convention. My last slide with the last video, where the work of Friendship's cultural preservation has been shown. Friendship's cultural preservation with proper patronization and specialized team has been working to keep the millennia-old traditional boat making craft alive. On this quiet riverbank in Savar, something extraordinary is happening. This group of carpenters are preserving the traditional technique of their ancestors. creating real-life blueprints. These masterful works of art are all that remains. The last echoes from the Delta. Friendship is preserving the nearly extinct wooden boats of Bengal by providing livelihood opportunities to the last generation of carpenters of wooden boats and bringing a renewed awareness and recognition of this aspect of Bangladesh's identity to not just its own people, but people from all around the world. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Imu, for your insightful presentation. Okay, now we are moving to our next presenter, Architect Dr. In-Souk Cho. She is an architect from Korea and is a former international co-director of one of UIA's work group called Heritage and Cultural Identity. So Dr. Cho, please come to the stage.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon, JI President Architect Naomi Sato and participants of the JI International President Forum 2022 on Heritage and Cultural Identities. Thank you for a warm introduction of me. It's a great honor to have this opportunity to present to such a distinguished audience. This presentation deals with the issues of restoration and design intervention of historic gate as an opportunity to promote conservation of heritage and national unity, with a focus on the case study of Sungyemun Gate in Seoul, Republic of Korea. This presentation suggests a further consideration on continuity between old and new, and identity of the cultural heritage in the rapid changing city of Seoul as resources for the sustainable cultural landscape. I'll be glad to answer any questions at the end. A national treasure, Sungyemun Gate, was reopened after a long and highly anticipated restoration process after the unspeakably heinous arson attack of February 2008. The May 4th, 2013 ceremony to mark the restoration rendered public reconciliation and brought the national grief to the end. In the history of Korea's cultural heritage restoration and conservation projects, the restoration of Sungyemun Gate entailed the highest expenditure in every sense: expenses, time, and expertise. And it will be a touchstone for the future generations in terms of practices of adopted traditional technologies and disaster preparedness. Hanyang Fortress, the city wall that surrounded the royal capital of Seoul throughout the Joseon dynasty was 18.7 kilometers long and integrated into the city's topography. Entry gates were built at major sections of the wall to the east, west, south, and north. Geographically speaking, Sungyemun was not exactly the south, but it was nonetheless the gate that symbolized the south-southerly direction. First completed in 1398, Sungyemun was used as the southern entrance to the royal capital of Seoul throughout the Joseon dynasty. It was built with an arch entrance in the center of a stone masonry base, and above that was built a wooden pavilion. Prior to the 2008 fire, it was the oldest wooden structure in the city of Seoul. The name of the gate came from the word ye, in Chinese li, the meaning etiquette, one of the 5 virtues of Neo-Confucianism, which is the political, academic, and ethical basis of the Joseon dynasty. Ye corresponds to the south, and according to the 5 elements that form the basis of Korean philosophy, it also corresponds to fire. The Joseon dynasty promoted a healthy social thought, healthy society through good manners, or ye, in accordance with Neo-Confucianism. The signboard of the gate is written vertically, unlike the signboards of other gates. According to Pungsu theory, Mountain Gwanaksan is physically resembles fire, and if written vertically, Sungyemun could protect the gate and the royal capital from the mountain's fire energy by fighting fire with fire. Another explanation for vertical writing can be tracked down in the Analects of Confucius. A person in an upright position shows good attitude or manners. The restoration of the gate was a major national project. It took 5 years, 2 months, and 20 days. This included 4 months of assessing the damage, a year and 7 months of preparation, and about 3 years of construction. Radio frequency identification system was employed to categorize the major damaged section. The system affixes an RFID tag to damaged sections. The tag included the name of the part, how badly it was burned, and its location. A handheld reader was used to access the tag information. After emergency preservation and stabilization measures were taken, the damaged parts were taken to a storage facility on the ground of Gyeongbokgung Palace, and work on the basic plan for restoration began. Later, it moved to the storage of Traditional Architecture Elements Conservation Center of Korea Foundation of Traditional Architecture and Technology. Much effort went into finding the wood for the reconstruction. Trees from the thick forest of Tum, that of an ancestor of the founder of the Joseon dynasty, were felled for the task. Trees in this forest are reserved only for restoration of buildings of importance. They were also used in the 19th century reconstruction of building of Gyeongbokgung Palace. The pines were flown by helicopter to Seoul, where they were stored at Gyeongbokgung Palace. The writing on the signboard, which was quickly rescued from the gate at the time of the arson attack, was restored. Preparatory construction was undertaken, and research and preservation measures were taken on the damaged sections of the gate. Plans to restore the gate and rebuild the fortress wall were completed. Then historical research and studies on ironworking, painting, and disaster prevention were carried out. All the preparations were video recorded. Firstly, the remaining pavilion was disassembled and minute research conducted. Meanwhile, on the southeast part of the restoration site, a traditional forge was set up so experiments could be made with the traditional metalworking process. Masons laid the granite mined from the mountains using traditional tools to repair the gate's stone foundation and rebuilt the flanking walls. Major carpenters used the traditional tools to process the wood for restoring the wooden pavilion. Both the salvaged wood and new wood were used. Roof tiles crafted by traditional craftsmen and fired in a traditional kiln were put in place using traditional tools. Fire and disaster prevention systems were installed and the surrounding area was prepared. Master Major Carpenter, Mr. Shin, who was in charge of restoring the gate's wooden superstructure, said, "I gave everything during the restoration of Sungyemun Gate. I would be good if the public took this opportunity to pour interest and love into our cultural heritage with a sense of ownership." Master Shin insisted on using as much of the salvaged wood as possible. For the remainder, he found locally produced pine over 100 years of age, fashioning it by hand using traditional methods. He considers strong red pine the best material. For the main pillars of the superstructure, he used pine over 300 years old. Where it would not present any safety problems, he left a piece of wood scorched from the fire as a reminder. On the pillars on the upper floor, he used both the salvaged and a new wood. Shin had also participated in the 1962 repair of the gate. Having learned under some of the greatest masters of the age, he was able to teach the new generation of major carpenters. Of particular note is that masters of the Korea's intangible cultural heritage were mobilized en masse for the restoration. During the entire restoration process, the Cultural Heritage Administration operated an advisory team of experts and oversaw everything directly. It maintained several basic principles: that salvaged material be used as much as possible, that the gate section be restored to how it appeared prior to the fire, and that some parts of the city walls which had been destroyed during the early 20th century, be rebuilt as much as possible. Advanced 3D laser scan technology was employed during the restoration. The 1,916 days of the restoration were video recorded and turned into an archive to be stored as national records. This is a modern take on the documentary drawings of the Joseon Dynasty, during which all major events overseen by the royal court were drawn, recorded, and archived. The registration number of a national treasure reflects its order of designation. In other words, the first national treasure ever designated was Sungyemun Gate. That gate was a national treasure number 1. It also reflects the public's love for the historic gate, an icon of Seoul. It's the love that is much more significant than the experts' descriptions of the architectural minutiae of the gate. But now the numbering system has been changed and numbers are no longer in use. Accordingly, the restoration of Sungyemun signifies communication with the public and more than the restoration of the piece of architectural heritage, an opportunity to restore pride in Korea's cultural heritage. This is the current heritage classification based on the Cultural Heritage Protection Act of Korea. National treasure is the top item, as you can see here. The restored gate is not exactly as it was prior to the fire. The fortress walls, demolished during the early 20th century, were rebuilt, and the width of the steps and the height of the ground were changed. Other changes were made to return the gate to its pre-1960s condition, including lengthening the roof line by 1.1 meter and changing the floor on the first level of the pavilion from the checkered floor to one made of long planks. The numbers of japsang figures on the roof were reduced from 8 to 7. Japsang are figures of animals and people placed on the roof of a palace building or gate to ward off bad spirits. Each roof tile was made and fired by hand, not factory produced. The most important new additions to the gate post-restoration are its disaster prevention facilities. To prevent disasters, intrusion detection sensors, fire alerts, and a direct hotline to the fire department were added. To deal with fires, an internal sprinkler system has been installed, and fire hydrants and hoses have been added outside the gate. Heat and flame sensors and 18 CCTV cameras have also been installed to allow respondents to tackle disasters early. Fire resistance materials has been added to the roof construction so that it can resist the temperature of over 1,000 degrees Celsius for more than 10 minutes. Lightning rods and conductors have also been installed at critical junctures, and a disaster prevention office was built. Lighting facilities have also been strengthened. Sungyemun Gate restoration work will be a touchstone in terms of disaster preparedness, challenge of the materials and techniques that are applied, and many other in the recovery of architectural heritage not only because of the unprecedented amount of the time and money spent, but also expertise performed was unparalleled in the entire history of architectural heritage restoration in Korea. However, what's lacking throughout the whole process of the restoration was considered of a bigger picture that includes an overall environment of the capital city that could be great resources for the sustainable cultural landscape. Even within the criteria of time, it had been taken a modern period in some parts, early Joseon in other parts, and late Joseon in another parts. It would have been better in the same contemporary of any kind, either early or late Joseon, to keep the continuity of the cultural landscape. Nevertheless, we all would appreciate all the efforts and people who are involved in the whole process of restoration work of Sungyemun Gate. That covers all I wanted to say today. There are, of course, more things I could talk about, but let's leave that there. Let me just run over the key points again. We looked at three main focus areas of this presentation. They are, firstly, review of history of Sungyemun Gate and its various functions. Secondly, the implementation of state-of-the-art technologies for the restoration and conservation of cultural heritage, as well as new additions of its disaster prevention facilities. And lastly, we assess the symbolic meaning of restoration work as a tool for communication with the public. Before we come to the end, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cho. I think your presentation was very inspiring, especially for people in Okinawa who lost their castle a couple of years ago. Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is architect TSUKAGAWA and architect HORI from Japan. Please come to the stage. They have done a wonderful heritage-related project in Kumamoto, which won JIA's award in 2021. Now stage is yours.
Thank you for your introduction. My name is Shun HORI, and I am a structural engineer in Nihon Sekkei. And he is Yuzuru TSUKAGAWA, architect in Nihon Sekkei. We have prepared a video presentation of our project called the Kumamoto Castle Reconstruction Observation Path, and hope you will enjoy it.
熊本城総合事務所の網田です。初めて城内に入った時はもうそうですね、どこがどれぐらい崩れてるっていう話は電話で前もって聞いてたんですよ。ですのでもう本当に崩れてるんだと、もうそれが本当の第一印象だったですね。天守の中にを覗いたのは次の日とかそんなに早い段階じゃなかったように思います。もうとにかく非常事態の中を歩いてる、余震が立て続けに起こってたもんですから、建物や石垣に近づかないという約束で被害調査に入ってたような感じなので、細かいことというのはとにかくもう後からっていうことで、まずとにかく大まかに見ていって、人を近づけていいエリアというのがどこにあるんだろうとか、そういう対応をしていましたね。
我々は熊本市さんからプロポーザルという形で業務委託を受けたわけですけど、その提案の時にですね、もともと熊本市さんの方から公開について、きちんと意識をしてくださいという課題をいただいたんです。公開ということに対して、当然工事を、優先して皆さんが入れないと、非常に長期にわたるものでしたので、なかなか市民の皆さんも観光客の皆様も、少し寂しい思いをされるだろうというところから、何とかして、少しでも工事中でも、それもそれで、見たい人もいっぱいいるでしょうから、それを見せたいという思いで、最初はですね、少し遠巻きなところから、言ってみれば危険性がないエリアから見れるような、小さなもの見台といいますか、そういうものを、提案させていただいたんですよ。でそれがその後いろいろ皆様のご意見だったり、それから仮説の考え方だったりというところを経て、今のような特別見学通路ですね、それから工事用にかけられている天守閣に向かう大きな通路、回遊動線ですね、ぐるっと回れて中も見れる外も見れるというようなところにたどり着いたんだろうなというふうに思っています。通常の建設現場では見ていただくことって非常に少ないんですが、見ていただければ頑張ると、頑張ればそれが皆さんに伝わるという、そういう思いが伝わることで地域経済も活性化していくというところもあると思いますので、やはりぜひとも見ていただきたいという思いは強くあります。
復旧の工事が長期間に及ぶということは分かっていましたので、当然安全にそれをやり遂げなきゃいけないということは分かっていたんですが、その復旧の過程を見てもらわなければいけないんだろうということも割と早い段階から共通認識としてあったと思います。崩れた石垣であったり建物であったり、その崩れた姿というのももう今しか見ることができない光景でありますし、またこれからそれが治っていく姿というのもですね、今だからこそ見れる光景であるというところで、それを見ていただくことが必ず熊本城の価値や魅力、愛着、あらゆる面でプラスになるんだということで、復旧を見てもらう、復旧過程を可能な限り公開していくということに努めました。この本丸エリアが長い間工事が続きます。出入り口であったり車両の通行箇所がごく限られていますので、そこに観光客の方と、工事車両が同時に動くということができないと。そうなると工事期間の間、そのエリアには人が入れない期間が続くということが分かりましたので、なんとか工事と、熊本城の観覧が並行できないかということで、工夫をしていただいた結果、あのような見学通路というアイデアが出てきたというものになります。
展示しながら復旧作業というものを見ていただくと、それも一つの文化であるという、そういう捉え方をしたわけです。熊本城の復旧というのは5年間の短期、それから20年間の中期で100年先を見据えた長期という3つの段階で計画を考えたんですね。その中の一番大事なのは中期という20年、この20年間ね、ずっとただいま工事中ですから立ち入りできませんという復旧をするわけにはいかない。みんなに見ていただこうという概念を強く打ち出したかった。ただ元に戻すだけではなくって、何かそこからのピンチからですね、新しいものを生み出すということを考えましたので、その一部にですね、形としては展示型復旧の通路ができたと、そういうふうに理解していただけばいいんじゃないかと思いますけどね。やはりこれは今までとは違うよねという話はたくさん聞きましたね。ですからそういった意味では創造という言葉が示す新しい取り組みというね、そういったことができてたから前例のないものに対するその共感はね、得られたんじゃないかと思ってますね。伝統の熊本城というものにマッチするようなね、モダンなルートができましたんで、私はそれは評価できると思ってますね。
熊本城特別見学通路の設計を担当しました日本設計の塚川です。一番最初に現地を訪れた際に被災した城内のこの中で どうやって安全な通路を作るか、そして地面に埋まっている地中への移行、そういったものにどうやって配慮した設計ができるかっていうのを非常に悩みました。それと熊本城の400年の歴史の中で緑豊かなこの木々を一本でも残したいという思いを設計の中でどう伝えれるか、それを非常に悩みました。敷地の中で気をつけなきゃいけない4つのポイントがありました。それは移行に配慮すること、それと崩落危険範囲を避けて安全な道を作ること、それと既存樹木を1本でも残すこと、それともう一つは景観に配慮して見学通路の高さを低く抑えることです。その4つのキーワードを結び合わせながら針の穴を縫うような形で空間を見つけて見学通路をつなげていきました。特別史跡内は地面の掘削が一切できないので、コンクリートの置き基礎をベースとしてその上に建築を建てる提案を我々はしました。実際の現地の樹木の 3D 測量を行いながらビムを使ってモデル検討を行いました。その中で木々の間を縫うような形で樹木の伐採を1本でも少なくなる形で設計を完成できたと思っています。地面に埋まっている移行を避けるために大スパンのアーチ構造を使ったりですとか、一本足で自立できるリングガーダーを使うことで地中の移行へ配慮した構造計画となっています。
私も建築家としてですね、こういった仕事に携わるのは初めてだったので、またお城の中での文化財の保護地区の中での仕事ということで、一番難しかったのは、遺構などがあるんで、それを傷めないように仕事を進めていくというところが結構大変でした。階段の高い鉄骨の方からワイヤーで、この橋をワイヤーで吊りまして、で、ステップ3に分けて、テンションをかけながら建て方をしていったということになります。引っ張るんで、いろいろ鉄骨のたわみを3ミリ以内に収めなさいとかという制約もありましたので、その解析をしながら建てていくということが結構大変でしたね。鉄骨は長いものをワンピースというんですけど、ピース数を少なくすればするほどですね、建て方、組み立てが早いんですけども、どうしても道路状況、それからこの城内のですね、狭い通路を通ってくるので、細かくピース分けしたものですから、かなりのピースを現場で組み立てて建て方をしたというところが、やはり日数的にもですね、かなり厳しかったんですが、なんとか工程の中で収めることができたので良かったと思ってます。ジョイントについてはですね、日本設計さんのこだわりが非常にありましたので、グラインダーで全て手作業で磨きましてですね、それで塗装をかけてるんで、見た目にはどこでついてるかというのがよくわからないような、こういう構造になってるんで、非常に見た目もいいと思ってます。
デザインに関しましては、熊本城に存在する色彩のみを使った白と黒を基調とした色にしています。それと床デッキは熊本県産材のヒノキを使うことで、この熊本城の景観に馴染むようなデザインとしています。それと手すりに関してはメッシュを2枚重ねにすることで、木々の葉っぱが重なるような形のオーバーレイでデザインを構成しています。プレオープンの時に一番最初に熊本市の方々が60人ぐらい入ってくれたんですけども、それ一緒に同席させていただいた時にすごい感動の声が聞こえて、ものすごく嬉しかったです。はい。20年後に解体されることは設計の当初から分かっていたので、そこに悲しみというか残してほしいという気持ちはあまりなくてですね、どちらかというと、熊本城400年の歴史をつなぐための20年の架け橋が架けれたことがとても良かったなと思っています。
正直に言いますと、特別史跡のこの熊本城の中にそれだけ巨大な建築物を新たに作っていいという許可が下りるとはとても思えなかったんですね。文化庁とどう相談をしようかと、そういう気持ちにもなったんですけど、もうこれはやらなきゃいけないんだと、ぜひやりたい、きっと必要なものなんだと、 誰もがこれは応援してくれるものなんだっていうもう、早い段階からの自覚がありました。見学通路の公開を始めてからはもう本当にお客様天守閣が見えるとおおっていう声を上げたり、あともう皆さんも携帯電話で写真撮りますので、もう本当に嬉しそうに大事そうに写真撮ってらっしゃいましたし、もう我々職員も応援の声をいただいたり、また、いろんな質問をですねしていただいて、情報交換することできましたし、この見学通路を褒めてくれる人たちばかりだったと思います。
熊本地震によって20年間入ることができなかったかもしれないこの熊本城にこの特別見学通路をかけることで、熊本城400年の歴史を未来の100年へとつなげることができたこと、それが、この見学通路を作った意味だと思っています。
このような、文化財、それから公園、というのを、新たな視点で、これから先、活用できる、可能性があるということについて、少しでも、参考になればありがたいかなというふうに思っています。
It's all thank you your attention.
Thank you, Tsukagawa-san and Hori-san. I think it is a very good idea to provide opportunities to observe the construction of conservation. Okay, now our last presenter is architect UEJIMA from Japan. He is a representative of JIA Heritage Architect School, which is an organization in JIA to train architects for conservation and restoration of heritage buildings. UEJIMA-san, stage is all yours.
ご紹介どうもありがとうございます。上島です。よろしくお願いします。英語が苦手なもんですから、得意な通訳の方にお願いしたいしております。JI 文化財修復塾の塾長を今しておりましてですね、で塾長と申しましてもですね、この一つのプロジェクトのリーダーというだけの存在でございましてですね、一つすごくその得意なものがあるというそういうものではなくて、一つのリーダーであるという解釈をしていただきたいと思います。今の通訳はできませんかすいませんね今の即興でしたから申し訳ない。本日の沖縄大会の国際会議の席でですね、JI 文化財修復の紹介の機会をさせていただきましてです、本当に感謝申し上げます。それでは始めさせていただきます。最初ですけれども、私たち JI 文化財修復塾の目的を説明させていただきます。私たち自身が持っています内部規約、これはJA の公的なものではなくて内部規約です。ここにも英訳は書いてるんですけども、ちょっと読ませていただきます。 国内外の建築文化財、文化遺産の修復、保存活用に関する公益的な社会教育と研鑽のための学習の場を提供し、専門の知識を身につけた人材の育成により、建築文化財、文化財の遺産の修復、保存活用に関する JA の社会的貢献活動を目的としています。すいません。今のね、内容は全部この英語に書いておりますので、ご理解できていると思います。端的に言いますとですね、保存再生の人材育成を置くための教育機関で社会教育をしているということです。そして主な取り組みに2つあります。国内外の建築文化財、文化遺産の修復、保存活用のために基礎的な知識を習得するための座学講座の開催です。で、座学講座と申しますのは、このような部屋の中で開催する講演会、そしてZoom ですね、ウェブを使った講習会を主にしております。で、2つ目はですね、国内外の建築文化財、文化財の修復、保存活用のために、基本的な知識を習得するための現地講座を行います。現地講座というのは、各支部の地域性のある建築の現地見学で、現地修理現場の見学、そして実測演習なんかをさせていただきます。そしてですね、JA 文化財修復塾の発端をお話しさせていただきます。JA 文化財の修復塾はですね、ルーツは2011年3月11日に発生しました東日本大震災の直後に議論がありましてですね、文化財修復建築物の被災調査をするためにはですね、文化財の素養を持った調査員が必要であろう。そのための教育機関が不可欠ではないかという議論がありました。そして震災時の文化財ドクターの派遣について説明させていただきます。文化庁による文化財ドクターの派遣の呼びかけがありました。で、建築家協会、建築学会、建築士会連合会がともにですね、調査活動を実施しました。で、そして、2014年9月にですね、JA 文化財再生会議のワーキンググループとして、我々 JA 文化財修復塾が正式に誕生したわけです。はい。ちょっと震災からはだいぶ時間があったんですけども、それまでも活動はしているということです。この図はですね、震災時の文化財ドクターの派遣によって、開催機関、団体の役割を説明したものです。ですね、これ、具体的に説明すると、これものすごい時間がかかるんですけども、はい。2020年に国立文化財機構、名分県ですね、通称名分県の中にですね、文化財防災センターが設置されて、このシステムが整いました。文化財ドクターチームは文化財、防災センター、そして土木学会、建築家協会、日本建築士会連合会、そして日本建築学会の5団体によって 派遣されております。この図を見ていただいたら分かるんですけれども、要するに、この5団体によって文化財ドクターが派遣されるということですね。で、都道府県の関係団体からの協力依頼で、それによって文化庁がお金を出して、事業が成立しているという、そういうことです。はい、スライド7ですね。今年の、ですね、災害時における、そうですね、これはですね、今年の3月に5団体により締結された協力協定について説明します。2020年に国立文化財機構文化財防災センターが設立されて、文化財ドクター派遣事業の事務局を担うことになりました。これは先ほども言いました。そして、文化財防災センターと、日本建築学会、日本建築士会連合会、そして、建築家協会で土木学会の5団体により、2020年の3月に、災害時における歴史的建造物の被災確認調査および、技術支援などに関する協力協定を締結しました。それがその時の調印式の写真です。前会長の六鹿会長もここにおられます。で、先ほど六鹿会長とちらっとお話しさせていただいたんですけれども、要するにこの被災によってですね、我々のそういう文化財に関する意識が高まってですね、協力関係が高まっていくという、そういうことがありますよねという話はされておりました。はい。そしてこれは細かく書いているんですけども、なかなか分かりにくいんですけども、はい。これは2011年の東日本大震災から今年までの、事業を整理したものです。で、赤字文字のとこが一番上の方が東日本大震災で、真ん中のところが熊本震災ですね。そして黄色い部分がJIA の対応、そして JIA 文化財修復塾の対応がこういうふうに書かれています。で、その都度文化財ドクターの派遣というのがされているということですね。そしてですね、ここでちょっと見ていただきたいのは、2005年、2006年、7年、8年、2015年ですね、15年、16年、17、18、10、要するに我々ワーキンググループがですね、活動して、その塾生というものが輩出しております。でその人数が今書かれております。第1期が45名で、第2期が16名で、第3期12名8名で、5期12名、6期が13名、7期が11名、そして今年ですけども25名の参加者がいてます。ただ時間の関係で参加できない方がおられましてですね、多分約これの半分がですね、修復塾の修了者になる予定でございます。で、これ別件なんですけども、一番右側の端かの調査があります。これはですね、近現代の緊急調査というのがありましてですね、で近現代の重点調査というのをする資格もですね、JA 文化財修復塾の修了者によってされるという、そういう形をとっております。近現代というのはどういうことかといったら、戦後から2045年ですね、45年からですね、2000年までの間の要するに近現代建築を含む建物を残すべき建物というものをしっかり調査をしております。はい。そしてこれがですね、我々のパンフレットです。 表紙はパイヤ工場から文化複合都市として再生したイタリアの美国家の写真です。内部は受付から受講内容、修了認定委員会、そして受講料、申し込みの方法なんかはここに書いております。でこれ具体的なものですけども、ちょっとすべてリンクしております。例えばですね、災害と文化財ドクター。これは文化財防災センターの主任研究員の方の講義です。
では文化財修復塾の一つの講義としまして、災害と文化財ドクターについて、私は国立文化財
こういうものが全部あります。要するに多分皆さんご存知だと思うので、稲葉先生の講義もここにあります。
遺産リストに記載されましたパリセーヌ河岸の一部として一つとして世界遺産になっております。これが焼けたのは皆さんニュースでご存知のことと思います。これが焼けた時のニュースから撮ったウェブから撮った写真です。
というふうにホームページから直接こういうものがダウンロードできます。今この貼っておりますので、あそこで携帯でピッと見ていただいたら即刻リンクに行きます。でこれがですね、要するに文化財修復塾の受講風景ですね、座学の受講風景です。でこれを受講グループで受講するとですね、レポートの提出というものに対してちょっと緩和されている。一人一人受講したらレポートを1枚から2枚提出する必要があるんですけども、一応3人以上の受講であればこのレポートの提出が免れるというちょっと緩和規定をしております。でこれが現地講座の一応パンフレットです。だから各支部地域ごとにですね、特色のある現地講座を開催しております。こういう大会の時も含めてやります。でこの一番左なんかは東京の大会の時に上野公園の近代化遺産を見学したものです。でこれがですね、奈良公園、私の住んでいるところは奈良なんですけれども、奈良公園の時現地講座ですね。
でぜひ宮崎さんの話を聞きたいなというのがもう悶々と湧き上がってましたので、で今日に至っております。はい、よろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いいたします。奈良国立博物館の宮崎と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。今建物の、東側に
というふうな形で常に一応ビデオも一応残す形にはしています。それと現地講座座学講座4回で現地講座4回、一応住んだ人だけが受けれる講座として第9回の総括講座がございます。そしてこの講座なんですけども、一応これは一昨年の講座の写真なんですけども、東京駅の保存再生で有名なですね、田原先生ですね、田原幸雄先生の講師に迎えて第9回のゼネラルレクチャーをしています。はい、 で最後にですね、受講者自らがですね、自分のヘリテージの仕事であるかとですか、こういう修復塾の講義に参加しての感想とか、そういったものを述べていきます。で最近ですけども、やりだしたこととして、我々、修了者だけのフィックスなこのサロンなんですね。で情報交換をさせていただいております。はい、これは2ヶ月に1回今開催しております。はい、これが一応ね、今日のその国際会議の中で一番重要な話ではないかなと僕は思っているんですけれども、一つの今後の我々の方向性というものを考えています。はい、JA 文化財修復塾はヘリテージマネージャーと連携を推進します。ヘリテージマネージャーというのは皆さんご存知かどうか知りませんけども、神戸の震災の後ですね、建築士会連合会を中心になってこういうヘリテージマネージャーという資格ができております。でそのヘリテージマネージャーの協議会というのがありまして、その中に我々のJA 文化財修復塾も入らせていただいております。ですね、すでに連携をしていくという話なんで、すでに神奈川ヘリテージマネージャーであるとか、鹿児島のヘリテージマネージャーとの連携がすでに始まっています。要するにその講義ですねのシェアをさせていただいております。はい、そして、2番目として JA 文化財修復塾の修了者に世界で通用する古書の使用を検討。現在はですね、修了者という名前しかありません。で既存のヘリテージマネージャーに合わせて、例えばヘリテージアーキテクトという名前もいいんじゃないかなということで、今提案をしております。ぜひこのなんていうんですか、こういうもし資格がもしあるとすればですね、アルカシアの中でもですね検討いただければなというふうには思っております。でそれでですね、先進国としてはですね、王立英国建築家協会のコンサベーションアーキテクトというのが同等の資格として検討すればどうかと思っています。RIBA の CR ですね、コンサベーションレジスター、そしてCA、コンサベーションアーキテクト、そして SCR ですね、スペシャリストコンサベーションアーキテクト、この3つの資格があるということですね。段階に応じてね。だからそういう形でですね、JI においてもですね、何しかのそういう資格めいたものをですね、構築できたらなというふうには思っているわけですけども、なかなか一朝一夕にパンと理事会に行ったらすぐ却下というなっちゃう可能性がありますので、ちょっと根回しの状態が今日の会議の中でも根回しをさせていただいているという、そういう状態。はい。で、JA 文化財修復塾はもう一つですね、文化庁、国の機関の文化庁であるとかですね、でそれと民間ですけども文化財建造物保存技術協会、こういった団体とですね連携をも推進していきたいと思っています。例えばですね、有形文化財の国庫補助に関してですね、やっぱりその設計管理をするにあたってやっぱり文化庁であるとか文献協のですね資格のおられる方のアドバイスを得るというのが今の実情です。でそれをですね、スムーズに我々とその連携をすることによって、仕事としてスムーズにいくのではないかなというふうには考 考えております。以上で発表終わるんですけども、この写真はですね、2006年のJI 大会の奈良大会の時にですね、平城宮跡の大極殿の復元の時の工事現場を見学したものです。どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you, UEJIMA-san. Okay, now the time to start the part 2. Here we have 4 panelists representing our affiliated institutes. First, from American Institute of Architects, past President Miss Jane Frederick. Please come to the stage. Then from the Association of Chinese Architects, President Mr. CHANA Sumpalung. From Korea Institute of Registered Architects, President's Representative Mr. Chungyu Shun. And from Korean Institute of Architects, President Mr. Chun. And lastly, from the Japan Institute of Architects, President Mr. Naomi Sato, who will facilitate the discussions. Okay, Sato-san, floor is all yours.
Can we take the masks? Yeah, let us show you the beautiful faces. Okay, my name is Naomi Sato, JIA President, and we want to start the second part of the session. And the first part treated the heritage, and we like to think about the modern architecture. Can it be a heritage in the future, 50 years later or 100 years later? And those kind of things we are very interested in right now. Could you show us the pictures, slides, please? In July, we had this newspaper. The Nikkei Shimbun, the very major economic paper in Japan. They treated modern architecture as a masterpiece of the beauty. And these buildings are designed by Kisho Kurokawa almost 50 years ago, and now it's completely demolished. It's very sad. Demolished, yes. Please show us the second one. 次お願いします。次のスライドお願いします。あれ？一つ飛んじゃいましたね。もう一つ。じゃあいいです。とりあえず。OK. This one is famous Kenzo Tange's Tokyo Olympic Gymnasium. And it is also 60 years old. And actually this one will be designated as national or world heritage in maybe next year or next years. And the third one, please. 次お願いします。次のスライドお願いします。And this one is in the center of Tokyo area, near the Tokyo station, the building called Tokyo Kaijo Office Building, and designed by architect Maekawa, who was working for Le Corbusier's office. And he tried to make open spaces around the buildings. And this building was the first high-rise building around the Tokyo station area. And this height of the building is 100 meter high, 333 feet high. And the surrounding area used to be 100 feet high, 31 meters. So 3 times higher than the surrounding areas. So it was a very controversial building at the time because it's scenery problems or looking down to the imperial palace. And it was very controversial building. But now, the many high-rise building around the area, so it's not the highest building around the area. And this one is also 50 years old. And it's going to be, it is decided to demolished in 1 or 2 years. So my question is, why these masterpieces are so easily demolished? In the, I mean, the modern architecture is so easily demolished and rebuilt. So I'd like to say something about how can we reserve modern architecture, modern masterpieces to the next generations? And is there a good way, or do you suggest something to do? How we can survive this situation? Can you start, Jane, please?
Arigato. Thank you to the Japanese Institute of Architects for this opportunity to join you for this conference. And as the 2020 president of the American Institute of Architects, and on behalf of President Dan Hart, I'm honored to be here today because meetings like this provide an excellent forum to share ideas and different perspectives about how to solve problems that are common to us all. And thinking about modern buildings, I know one of the challenges that we have seen is that quite often, one, they're not loved. They haven't been taken care of like some other buildings have, and they might be problematic in that they have building materials that are very difficult to deal with today. I mean, they might have asbestos in them or fiberglass that has deteriorated that you may not want to replace, or plastics that are hard to replace. So I think looking toward the buildings and seeing how we can protect them. I know that I have seen a lot of community groups that rally around particular buildings and that can help save them. But also looking at the buildings on how we can best restore them so that they are appreciated and loved. I think that's a big problem. I know in the U.S. a lot of the brutalist architecture is hated, and it's very difficult to get people to rally around those.
Thank you. Could you suggest something? Sumpalung?
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you again for inviting us here. It's quite a wonderful event over there to share, like Jen just said. I think we have the same problem there in Bangkok also, which has just happened lately, last year, that one of the very beloved theater has been torn down because it's a very nice one. And I come to conclude of one thing that we are talking along. That theater has been protest for almost 10 years or 20 years, I think. And then with that, we come to conclusion on one thing that, okay, the building has served its purpose on one time. And then once that, if you love them more enough, so you have to find how to use it in the future. But most of the building like this, we love it, but we never find the way to have it stay. You see what I mean? Because like that theater, the theater, they try to keep it, but no one watch movie in that theater anymore because there's better theater somewhere else. Which is, that means it's not time of itself. It was popular on, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. It's quite very nice building. So what I try to conclude on this is like, or it is about we love it in different way. We have different knowledge. We have different point of view. We as architects love them as architecture. The owner love them as a place that they can use. People love them as a place that they want to be there. If the place doesn't want to, no one want to be there, so the place cannot stay itself. It's about to die. That was something that we have to accept. So come back to your question that how can we preserve them? I think we have to make them still alive. Because if you see that, you can see that sometimes office space is too small for nowadays office kind of style. Or even the first one, the hotel, do they have anyone live there? Because I talked to the lady who owned that theater. She said with tears that I tried to keep it for 10 years, but no one watched the movie in there, in her theater. How can I keep doing that? Who helping her? They throw it back to university that own the land. They throw it back to government. Why doesn't care about the architecture in late kind of retro architecture? I can say. So those kind of questions we don't find the answer. That is a problem. That's why we cannot keep really nice building like the hotel, the capsule hotel, which I love also. But I never stayed there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. How about the what's going on in Korea? Could you say?
Well, this is very timely topic to talk about because I am having a strong stress right now as a city architect of Chungyu. You know that. Yeah. Anyway, first of all, the architect Seok Jong-hun, the president of KIRA, want to appreciate for inviting him, but he is very sorry in not to make present here today because due to very important appointment with the congressman. The congressman is always important. So I'm here on behalf of him anyway. I think it's really sad to see that Nagakin capsule tower. One time I visited also that Tokyo Olympic Stadium designed by Keiju Danke. But we are having similar experience in Korea. Like the main headquarters building of Jeju University, designed by Kim Jung-up, very well known Kim Jung-up, has been demolished already. And also Casa del Agua, designed by well-known Mexican architect Legoleta, demolished in 2013. And also the old Chungju City Hall building to be demolished soon. And also the Millennium Hilton Seoul Hotel, designed by Kim Jong-sung, very iconic modern architect, to be demolished soon also. So it's really timely matter to discuss about this kind of issue. In case of Chungju City, where I worked as city architect until recently, new mayor is trying to demolish the old Chungju City Hall building to do a new design competition, even though we spend a lot of money. I think that the value of that modern heritage in architecture cannot count it as money issues, but always political leader and developer and building owner count as money as not really invaluable. The value of that heritage building. So that's kind of problem. And I like to kind of introduce one thing, 5 items from European Charter on Architectural Heritage I found recently. First, architectural heritage does consist not only our most important monument, but also less important buildings of our village, and their characteristic village create either naturally or artificially. Second, the past imprinted in architectural heritage provide an absolutely necessary environment for a balanced and complete life. And third, architectural heritage is an asset of essential spiritual and cultural and social economic value. Fourth, the historical center and parcel structure bring our lives to a harmonious social balance. And fifth, architectural heritage plays an important role in education. In other words, architectural heritage includes not only buildings with a historic value, but also buildings that contain our daily lives, meaning that they can enrich our lives only when they are sustainable, which is very important. So the KIRA is putting emphasis on social responsibility nowadays after the become the Institute of a Mandatory Association. They're putting more effort to make this social responsibility further. I think two things we have to do is somehow we have to improvise and enhance the public awareness of the importance of modern heritage in architecture. The second is we have to really to educate the professional and architect to bring this issue to become continuity. Actually, this issue has been disconnected in like a restoration, and practicing nowadays is disconnected totally. Somehow, KIRA or JIA or ARCASIA can work together to make this more connected each other, and bring this issue to the more practical way would makes work. I think HPG would be very important, but also working on the modern the heritage in architecture should be bring up to the level where we have to aware again and have to work together. And I'm a very positive person, and that's why I believe I can change a little bit while I dedicate my time and effort in public sector. That's what I do. So let's work together to make a better future and not to make these things happening again. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. How about you?
Okay. Again, thank you for inviting me, and also I'm very much honored to be here as a KIA president. Architecture has always centered on permanence and ephemerality, defined by material conditions. How we build is closely tied what we preserve and how we conceptualize the coming future. Architects need to examine the relationship between history and growth, preservation and change, and present and future more than ever. Through times, architecture and cities become threatened by new challenges like this, such as the climate change crisis, seismic design against earthquakes, commercial demands such as FAIA, the floor area ratio things, and urban restructuring for the future. We need all those things. Recently in Korea, as Vice President Shun mentioned, there was a symposium under the theme of the future of Namsan Millennium Hilton Hotel and the Yangdong Improvement District, which is at the heart of Seoul, near the Namsan area. The landmark building can be destroyed, demolished in 1 to 2 years because of the investment banking teams like Aegis asset management people. I mean, they are trying to get more out of these real estate investment. No architect can, prevent that. We don't have actual solutions for that. So I think the thing that we need is that, how we make a creative solutions with public agencies like Seoul Metropolitan Government. Maybe they expect more floor area ratio out of this investment. But they cannot do that because of the strict zoning and architectural codes. But in this case, like modern heritage things, I think we need a exceptional creative efforts with from architect side and with public side, as we need to preserve those cultural heritages. I think from that part, I think architects need more collective efforts from UNESCO, from UIA, from ARCASIA, and JIA, KIRA, and KIA all together, maybe. I think that's my thought on this. Too bad that I was there and then the Kurogawa's capsule hotel was being demolished. I didn't even know that. So
just several months ago, it's
that's
completed.
right.
Demolition was completed.
I'll give you my microphone to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I add something to
yeah.
that? I think another argument that architects don't make enough is that the most sustainable green building is an existing building, because when you consider the embodied carbon, that you're saving the concrete or you're saving the steel, even if you gut it completely to put in a new use to make it work for a new client, that's the most sustainable path that we can take. And I think that's, in this time of the climate crisis, is what we really need to be pushing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely agree with that, because of the government of Japan, insisting that carbon neutral in 2050.
Right.
Only 30 years more. Yeah, and I think it's almost impossible. Just demolishing and creating new buildings, and then stop thinking about building new buildings. Instead, we keep the existing conditions and reuse the existing buildings. And what happens in 30 years later? But I think it's still not enough for the carbon neutral. So I think we should propose the government or local government to try to keep the existing situation as long as possible. And I think what we must do is that, yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What if we, exchange that land, that building, with the other land that public government does have it, then maybe private developers can have more profits out of it, and then that building can be turned into public properties and then being preserved. That way, I think that's one way, but it's not a solution still. But I am thinking of those things, yeah. Public, when I say public needs to make more actions than positive actions, then I think that's one of the creative things. The second one that I'm thinking of is that, you can give more floor area ratio while keeping that building as a historic building, yeah?
Yes, I think that could be one way, but I kind of object to that opinion, because the architecture itself, the placeness and history is very important. Like we did, the tact with the site already, because creating placeness, it's not possible to move to another parcel to give more the land for the developer or the political leader and build new one on original site. Like at it's not mine, but old city hall, and actually not my decision, but the steering committee, the consists of citizens, had a discussion for 2 or 3 years. Have decided to have that existing building has a value to preserve. and we have an international design competition with those preservation of the old building. And so it's attacked there. So there's no way we can change something. Actually, now new mayor is saying that he can move that existing building to somewhere else. But to me, it doesn't make sense, right? So,
I mean, what I'm saying, I'm correcting the things that I said, is that, you know, not moving one place to, like Imperial Hotel, they moved into another place, but what I'm saying was that just exchange properties, like like in Songhyun-dong, you bought it from Korean Airlines, and then Seoul Metropolitan Government is giving the land in like a Gangnam, somewhere in Gangnam area, like a Seoul Medical Center something. So in that manner, yeah, in that manner you can preserve it. I mean,
I think I can add to that because of I look at in terms of like investing one way and then preserving in another way, right? Sometimes architects have to do more than just dictator that this is good design, but we have to find another way to make that building understanding that this is still good, because just like Capsule Hotel, I don't think anyone have talking about how to do it in kind of a commercial way that okay make it possible to stay, but we still keep on the article that I read is about how it good, how it be iconic on the time that it has. But yeah, we never show a proposal. Now, if we work on this, I think architects have to do a proposal that how to make it alive, and then what it was enough until they don't want to turn it down. I think if even they turn this one down, they still gain a little more, but they lost the sharpness, they lost an iconic, they lost a landmark of the town, which is worth more than that. But this one, no one qualified for a public. I think not everyone know, like we know, right? Even the government doesn't know like we know. So that is a breaking point that we should do as association, which is we are all together here. Thanks.
Yeah, we architects. Our job is creating or keeping good circumstances or good environment to the future. We are responsible for that, and we are proud of working for this. But unfortunately, the economic world, the architecture design doesn't mean anything. Just make money. How much make money is from the buildings, and so it is very hard. It's really hard for us to insist our job, our responsibility to the general public, and maybe we share the same feeling. That so of course, we like to, if it's really good if we can keep the modern masterpieces as a heritage and make it live longer, and that's very hopeful things, but it is not. So I'm always struggling with this, and but I thought that the Western countries, like European countries, they keep the buildings more for a cultural asset, keep as a cultural asset. So keeping the circumstances as long as possible. But especially the Asian countries, the new things is, people think that the new things is much attractive or better. So people doesn't put importance on aged things. So as Emil said, that intangible, heritage. We understand the intangible heritage, but people doesn't understand the tangible heritage. Right. That is a very trouble with architecture. Well.
not only buildings and also the existing context we are living, like last 30 years, 40 years, something, not recognized as the very valuable asset also. So, as you know, in Korea, is Seoul is much better right now, but once mayor change it, he start over again, and other city other than Seoul metropolitan city is getting worse. Even like Chungyu city is my hometown. It's about 1 million people is living. It's not small city compared to American, right? And has a beautiful mountain and creeks in the middle of it. Professor Chun knows very well about Chungju. And as a city architect working for 3 years, and I try to preserve that old center of the city as it is, and somehow controlled by public sector in a way to develop, to make sure that compensates some profit, the minimum profit for the building owner. But some developer came in as really boosting some developing. And then now new mayor is raising hand for them now. So all 2-year plan, the comprehensive plan has been eradicated, and they are starting new plans. So as an architect, I think that we have to really consider our existing village and town and city also, doesn't have to be very old like what Sayeed show, but still the living trace we lived like 30 years, 40 years are also important for us. So I think we have to really work hard to raise some perception, awareness in public, and also working together as a professional, right?
Okay, thanks. Discussion is still moving on, but we are already 5 minutes after 4, and we need to leave here in 10 minutes. So let us conclude. Let us continue this discussion on the boat. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Shall we close the second part, and let's do it in the third part. Okay. We enjoyed it very much of this International Presidents Forum, and thank you very much for gathering together. And yeah, we had a very good time with you, and thank you very much. So the session is adjourned. Okay, thank you.